How do you turn a street fight into art? And how do you make that art so raw, so visceral, that a street punch becomes such a devastating defense even soldiers take off their helmets to take notes? The answer wasn't born in a serene temple, but among the smoke of coconut trees and the salt of Hawaii. There, in the middle of a paradise hiding in asphalt hell, a boy barely reaching his father's shoulder learned to survive gun butts, knives, and chains. His name was Adriano Emperado, and instead of breaking or running away, he absorbed all that violence, distilled it, and forged a legacy that now lives in the pockets, muscles, and minds of police officers, Marines, and martial arts masters around the world. This is not the story of just another fighter. It's the story of the man who looked violence in the eyes, grabbed it by the collar, and gave it a name written in bold letters: Kajukenbo, martial might, where warriors live forever. Imagine Honolulu, but forget the postcards. We're in Palama settlement in the 1930s. No flower garlands or umbrella cocktails here. Just the steam of hot rice mixed with the smell of fish and gasoline from the harbor ships. A maze of alleys where Filipino, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Puerto Rican immigrants lived side by side, each with their customs and often their tensions. In this boiling pot of cultures and fists, Adriano Directo Emperado was born on June 15th, 1926. Growing up, there was a daily lesson in survival. His home smelled of boxing glove leather and sweat. His father and uncle were professional boxers who fought on weekends to put food on the table. The gloves were huge on Adriano, so as a child, he hung them around his neck like a charm. At 8, he was already learning to defend himself. His father taught him the basics of Western boxing, but it was a Filipino neighbor who showed him how a simple rattan stick could become an extension of his will, teaching him the 12 basic strikes of Escrima. By 11, he was waking before the roosters, not to work the fields, but to practice strikes with dried mango branches in the backyard, feeling the weight and whistle of the improvised weapon. By 14, while other boys were discovering baseball, Adriano walked through the doors of Sensei Taneo's dojo at the Palama gym to study Judo. And by 20, after years of disciplined daily training, the legendary Professor William K.S. Chow tied around his waist the 5th Dan black belt in Kenpo, naming him his head instructor. Emperado was a sponge, absorbing every lock, every strike, every philosophy. But knowledge alone wasn't enough. The street still had one brutal lesson for him. One day, while walking with his best friend, a trivial argument turned into tragedy. A man crossed the street and, without a word, slashed his friend's stomach open in front of a grocery store. The image marked him forever. Blood staining the pavement, a distant siren wailing, and a whispered promise born of rage and fear. If I want to keep breathing, I must be faster than the blade, stronger than hate. Summer of 1947. World War II had ended, but another silent war raged daily in Honolulu's neighborhoods. Soldiers and sailors returning from the front often looked for fights with locals, and the streets became a testing ground for self-defense. It was in this context that 5 men, 5 masters of their respective disciplines, met in secret. They called themselves the Black Belt Society, and their laboratory was a damp basement beneath a Palama bakery. There, amid the smell of yeast and sweat, a revolution was born. Among them were Peter Chu, boxing champion and black belt in Korean Tang Soo Do; Frank Ordonez, jiu-jitsu master; Joe Holk, Kodokan Judo expert; George Clarence Chang, Shaolin Chinese boxing, Sil Lumpai Kung Fu master; and, of course, Adriano Emperado, specialist in Kenpo and Escrima. With his multi-style background and obsession with real-world effectiveness, Adriano acted as the glue uniting this diverse group. Their purpose was clear: to create a combat system that worked when there were no rules, no referees, and no second chances. Their method was brutally empirical. They went out into the streets, into the roughest bars, and deliberately started fights to test techniques in real time. If a move failed and the fighter ended up with a black eye, the technique was discarded without hesitation. If a combination dropped dropped the opponent in under 5 seconds, it earned a place in the notebook. Nearly 3 years of living laboratory, fueled by cheap beer, countless bruises, and camaraderie forged in pain, gave birth to Kajukenbo. The name itself was an acronym of its parent arts, K.A. from karate, Tangsu-do by Chu, J.U. from Judo and Jiu-Jitsu by Hulk and Ordóñez, K.E.N. from Kenpo, Emperado's domain, and B.O. from Chinese boxing, Chang's Kung Fu. When the Korean War drafted the other 4 founders, Emperado remained the sole guardian of the new art. In 1950, he hung the first sign at the door of his school in Palama, a declaration of intent. Classes Monday to Friday. If you came to dance, try another sidewalk. Kajukenbo is not a sport. It's a survival tool. Here, no one counts points. Conflicts are ended. Its motto is as blunt as a punch to the throat. Hit first, hit hard, and don't let him get up. While many traditional styles teach a passive defense of block then counter, Kajukenbo's philosophy is one of violent interception. The practitioner doesn't wait, he enters. A Kajukenbo fighter interrupts the attacker with a jab to the eyes, drives a knee into the solar plexus, shatters the nose bridge with an elbow, and sweeps the supporting leg to finish on the ground, all in less time than it took you to read this sentence. Training is notoriously brutal because, as Emperado used to say, you can't learn to take a punch by reading a book. They trained with full contact and minimal protection. The rule was simple. If you left class without a bruise, you learned nothing about pain or how to overcome it. Techniques were stripped of all flourish. Emperado despised what he called ballet katas. His mantra was, if a technique takes 10 steps, cut it to 3. If it doesn't drop the opponent, it's useless. Don't teach it. The system blended the parent arts in a unique way. From Kenpo, it took the focus on attacking both upper and lower levels simultaneously. From Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, throws and locks, to control on the ground. From Korean karate, the power of its kicks. And from Filipino Escrima, not just weapons, but its fluid angles and motions, teaching fighters to see their forearms as sticks and fists as blades. The opponent thinks he's fighting a man, but he's facing a walking arsenal. This raw, efficient approach soon caught attention. From Palama's alleys, Kajukenbo made its way into military bases. Marines studied it for close-quarters combat in Vietnam's jungles, and Honolulu police officers adopted it as part of their daily patrol training. After cementing Kajukenbo in Hawaii, Adriano Emperado dedicated himself to spreading his gospel of martial pragmatism. His first students, hardened by Palama's brutal sessions, became apostles of the system. Names like Sid Asuncion, Tony Ramos, and Aleju Reyes carried the seeds of Kajukenbo to the U.S. mainland, opening the first schools in California in 1958. From there, the art spread like wildfire, first across the United States, then worldwide, to places as far apart as Madrid, Caracas, and Seoul. Emperado himself, now known as Sijo, founder or patriarch, traveled tirelessly to oversee the quality of instruction. He was a humble man who arrived at new schools carrying a suitcase full of diplomas, and often a broom. If the place was small or dirty, he swept it himself before class began, proving that a true master leads with example and humility. Despite his growing fame, he never lost touch with the streets. He worked as a bodyguard for politicians and businessmen, including Hawaii's governor, but never charged a single police officer for training. His logic was simple. If you protect people on the streets, I'll protect you in the gym. People always look out for each other. In 1991, Black Belt magazine honored him as Instructor of the Year, an award he celebrated the only way he knew, by buying beers for all his students. He officially retired in the 1980s, when decades of combat took their toll on his body. He said farewell with a phrase that now hangs in every Kajukenbo school that honors tradition. Train every day as if you'll fight tomorrow, and fight as if you've trained all your life. Dojo Emperado passed away on April 4th, 2009, at 82 years old, leaving behind a living, evolving combat system. He's gone, but his spirit endures. Every time a practitioner breaks a board, or more importantly, breaks free from danger to save their life, he's there, standing firm, reminding the world that strength without purpose is just violence. The story of ADRIANO EMPERADO teaches us a powerful truth. Sometimes the most dangerous places are also the most generous in lessons. From the violent, forgotten streets of Palama rose not just a survivor, but a self-defense system that has saved countless lives across 5 continents. From the boy who fell asleep to police sirens emerged the godfather of street fighting, a man who proved that true power doesn't lie in the ability to destroy, but in the will to protect. Emperado didn't invent violence, but he created a language to understand it, confront it, and ultimately survive it. If you ever doubt that one person can bend the course of adversity and leave an indelible mark on the world, remember the name martial artists whisper with respect: Emperado. His legacy isn't carved in stone, but in the sweat, blood, and resilience of thousands. Do you know another legend worth telling? Another hero forged in hardship? Write it in the comments. And if you want more stories where the code is simple, strike first, always protect, subscribe. There are still many Palama nights left to tell.